On a brisk Thursday morning in downtown Chicago, Vanessa Hughes, a poised and impeccably dressed black woman, stepped through the revolving glass doors of the prestigious Hamilton Grand Hotel. In her hand was a sleek black Centurion card, the kind of elite credit card reserved for only the most privileged few. Yet despite her clear status, Vanessa was met not with warm welcomes or respectful smiles, but with cold suspicion and subtle disdain from the hotel staff. At the front desk stood Michael Grant, the guest relations manager, whose polite greeting barely concealed a flicker of doubt as his eyes scanned her from head to toe. When Vanessa calmly presented her reservation for the presidential suite, Michael hesitated unnervingly before his fingers hovered over the keyboard, taking an uncomfortable pause that spoke louder than words. Then came the thinly veiled jab, a dismissive comment about her Centurion card maxing out quickly, a joke that fell flat amid the watching guests. Vanessa held her composure, knowing well the routine of assumptions and bias that would soon unfold. Her reservation was downgraded without explanation, and she was quietly pushed toward a less prestigious room. This moment marked more than just poor service. It was a glaring example of the quiet, pervasive racial prejudice that too often shadows black professionals, even those who carry symbols of wealth and power. But Vanessa Hughes was no ordinary guest. Behind that black card lay the authority to decide the fate of the hotel's multi-billion-dollar future, and she was prepared to make them face the consequences of their prejudice. When Vanessa Hughes approached the front desk of the Hamilton Grand Hotel, the air shifted imperceptibly, though keen observers might have noticed. Michael Grant, the guest relations manager, was standing tall, dressed sharply in his crisp uniform, his brown hair slicked back neatly. His smile was practiced and professional, but when his gaze met Vanessa's, it faltered. There was a hesitation, brief but telling, as if a question had quietly arisen in his mind. Does she really belong here? Instead of a warm welcome, Vanessa was met with a subtle but unmistakable skepticism. "Good morning, ma'am," Michael said, his tone polite but tinged with an edge that only those who've been hardened by years in customer service know well. Vanessa, calm and composed, placed her leather clutch carefully on the counter and tapped her phone screen to bring up her reservation confirmation. "Vanessa Hughes," she said quietly. "Presidential suite, 3 nights." Michael's fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard, but his eyes kept flickering up to Vanessa's face, then down to her shoes, her outfit, and even the tone of her skin. What should have been a straightforward check-in became a slow, deliberate assessment. The delay felt less like a technical glitch and more like a silent judgment. Finally, Michael's smile tightened to a thin line as he said, "Yes, I see the reservation and the payment method." At that, Vanessa slid out a sleek black Centurion card from a hidden pocket in her clutch and placed it on the counter. The card's metallic clink against the glass was unmistakable. Michael blinked and gave a slight tilt of his head. "Oh, a Centurion. Those cards tend to max out pretty fast, don't they?" he remarked, as though making light conversation. But his words echoed through the lobby loud enough for nearby guests to catch. No one laughed. A young woman nearby shifted uncomfortably, and a man sitting by the lounge narrowed his eyes. Vanessa didn't react outwardly. Her expression remained calm but unyielding. There was no anger or surprise, only a quiet disappointment born from experience. She had seen this routine before, a well-dressed black woman, confident but unseen for who she truly was. Without a word, Michael returned to the keyboard, his fingers now typing aggressively, clearly performing for the audience around him. "It appears there's an issue with the upgrade confirmation," he said with a false note of sympathy. "We do have a deluxe room available on the 9th floor, though, which I can offer you while we sort this out." Vanessa picked up her card, slid it back into her clutch, and nodded, once her voice steady and clear. "I'll take the room." Her footsteps echoed across the marble floor as she walked away, calm, unbothered, and resolute. But behind her heels, an invisible weight followed one Michael believed had lifted. Little did he know Vanessa's stay had only just begun. Upstairs, the room she was given was a stark contrast to the opulence she had booked. No sweeping views of Chicago's skyline, no welcome amenities, no nod to her elite status. The room was sterile, forgettable, the kind of place meant to make a guest feel invisible. Vanessa sat by the window, opening her laptop and bringing up a spreadsheet already prepared. Each row detailed incidents from the morning delayed check-in, mocking comments about her card. The name of the staff member involved, times, and notes on the racial tone detected. The next day, Vanessa returned downstairs dressed plainly. Gray dress, simple cardigan, and flats, intentionally blending in, presenting as a business traveler rather than an elite guest. She didn't seek attention. She wanted to observe. At the front desk, Michael was gone, replaced by a nervous young woman who stiffened when she saw Vanessa's room number. A polite but hesitant greeting followed, as if Vanessa's presence had been flagged. Later, when Vanessa tried to enter the executive lounge reserved for high-tier guests, she was stopped by a staff member who refused her access despite her confirmed reservation. The system did not show her lounge privileges, and staff ignored her explanations. Repeatedly, Vanessa faced a barrage of subtle denials from food options to gym access, while white guests moved freely without question. Each slight was carefully recorded, a pattern emerging. A well-dressed black woman denied the respect and privileges her status warranted. Vanessa's quiet determination was not a retreat but a build-up to a reckoning. This story is a powerful reminder of how racial bias, even in the most luxurious settings, can quietly undermine dignity and respect. But Vanessa Hughes was ready to turn the tide. Vanessa Hughes wasn't just a guest at the Hamilton Grand Hotel, she was a keen observer, quietly documenting every moment of her stay. From the first interaction with the front desk staff, she sensed the subtle but unmistakable undertone of bias that permeated the hotel's service. Rather than reacting with anger or confrontation, Vanessa took out her laptop and began methodically recording each incident, creating a detailed log of the discrimination she faced. Each entry was precise: the date and time, the location within the hotel, the staff member involved, and the exact nature of the slight or denial. The first line was chilling in its clarity. Failure to honor suite reservation. Racial tone noted at reception. Centurion card mocked. Staff name Michael Grant. Vanessa knew that keeping an accurate and unemotional record was vital to exposing a pattern of behavior that others might dismiss as isolated. The next morning, dressed modestly to avoid unnecessary attention, Vanessa left her room for breakfast. She wore a simple gray dress, beige cardigan, and flat shoes, a look designed not to draw eyes but to blend in among typical business travelers. At the front desk, the usual staff was replaced by a young woman whose forced smile barely masked her unease upon seeing Vanessa's reservation. Vanessa proceeded to the executive lounge expecting the privileges she had booked, but at the entrance, a sharply dressed attendant blocked her way. "Sorry, this area is reserved for executive package guests only," he said curtly. Vanessa calmly showed her room number and reservation confirmation, but the system showed no access for her. The attendant's gaze dropped repeatedly to her shoes and skin, avoiding her eyes. Vanessa's calm demeanor never wavered as she took discreet photos of the entrance sign, her room key card, and the staff member's badge, silent evidence of another instance of exclusion. As she walked back through the lobby, Vanessa overheard two hotel employees speaking in low voices near the concierge desk. One muttered, "Another one of those DEI publicity stunts. I don't get why they keep bringing people like that in here." The phrase "people like that" hung in the air like a poison, reminding Vanessa of the countless times she had witnessed similar attitudes: her mother biting her lip in a grocery store, her uncle denied jobs despite his education. Back in her room, Vanessa updated her spreadsheet. Denied lounge access despite booking. Dismissive and evasive staff documented patterns of racial exclusion. When she called room service, she was ignored repeatedly until a reluctant employee answered, telling her gluten-free options were only for guests in the presidential suite, which she no longer officially occupied. The discrimination wasn't limited to food. When she tried to use the gym, a staff member asked her to wait while a white man was admitted without question. Vanessa was asked repeatedly to verify her room access, a scrutiny her fellow guests never faced. Each slight was a thread in a fabric of systematic exclusion, a quiet war waged in polished lobbies and behind smiles. But Vanessa wasn't deterred. She remained composed, aware that each incident was evidence not just of individual bias, but of a deeper institutional problem. Her nightly reviews of the log were not moments of despair, but preparation. She rehearsed her calm, knowing that her mission was not to rant or accuse, but to reveal the truth with quiet dignity. This meticulous record-keeping was her strength, a shield against the gaslighting and denial she anticipated. Vanessa Hughes was documenting not just her experience, but the hidden reality faced by many, the invisible barriers that persist even in places meant to offer comfort and luxury. Her resolve grew stronger with each entry, each photo, each recorded moment. The hotel that sought to diminish her was about to face a reckoning, one built on undeniable facts and unshakable integrity. Despite her confirmed reservation, Vanessa Hughes found herself repeatedly denied access to spaces and privileges that should have been hers by right. After being downgraded to a standard room at the Hamilton Grand Hotel, Vanessa's challenges only intensified as the subtle racial biases embedded in the hotel's culture became impossible to ignore. The next morning, dressed simply yet elegantly, Vanessa made her way to the executive lounge, a haven meant exclusively for guests with the highest tier packages. She approached the entrance with her keycard and reservation confirmation in hand, expecting a smooth entry. Instead, she was stopped by a staff member named Peter, whose sharp eyes and clipped tone left no room for negotiation. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this area is reserved for executive package guests. Only," Peter stated firmly, his gaze drifting from her face to her shoes, then to her skin, before quickly looking away. Vanessa calmly presented her room number and the confirmation on her phone, but Peter interrupted without even checking the system. "The system doesn't show lounge access for your room," he said dismissively. Vanessa's demeanor remained composed as she silently recorded the incident, capturing photographs of the lounge entrance, the sign restricting access, her keycard, and Peter's employee badge. Each image was a piece of evidence, a testament to the unspoken barriers she faced. As she walked back through the lobby, Vanessa overheard two employees speaking quietly near the concierge desk. One, a man with slicked-back platinum hair, whispered just loud enough for her to hear, another one of those diversity and inclusion publicity stunts. "I don't get why they keep bringing people like that in here." That phrase, "people like that," was not unfamiliar to Vanessa. She had lived with its sting all her life, from watching her mother hold back tears in grocery stores to seeing her uncle, a law school graduate, turned away from jobs. Now dressed in a modest gray dress and cardigan, Vanessa was confronting the same old prejudice disguised behind luxury uniforms and polite smiles. Throughout the day, Vanessa's attempts to enjoy the amenities of her stay were met with further resistance. When she called room service to inquire about gluten-free options listed in the executive package menu, the voice on the other end sighed and said, "Ma'am, we only provide those options to guests in the presidential suite. You're in a standard room, right?" Vanessa explained evenly that her room had been downgraded due to a system error, but her explanation was met with disbelief and light laughter. The pattern was clear: the privileges she was entitled to were being denied based on assumptions about her identity rather than facts. When she tried to book a gym session, the spa receptionist asked her to wait while admitting a white man behind her without so much as a question. Vanessa was repeatedly asked to verify her status while others passed freely. These experiences weren't isolated incidents, but part of a larger, deliberate pattern of exclusion, a carefully maintained facade that shielded the hotel's true culture from public view. Vanessa understood that the invisible hands pushing her out were not accidental, but systemic. Yet she refused to be silenced or shamed. Each slight fueled her determination to expose the truth and hold the hotel accountable. She spent her evenings updating her meticulous log dates, times, names, descriptions, photographs, and audio clips. This record was not just a personal diary, but a detailed dossier, a weapon forged in patience and resolve. Though the indignities she faced were many, Vanessa carried herself with unwavering grace. Her eyes reflected the quiet storm within a storm born of decades of witnessing injustice, but now channeled into purposeful action. This was more than a hotel stay. It was a battle for dignity, respect, and change. Vanessa Hughes was determined to turn the page on an old story of discrimination disguised as customer service. And she was ready to show the world what true courage looked like, not in shouts or protests, but in quiet strength and undeniable truth. Throughout her stay at the Hamilton Grand Hotel, Vanessa Hughes experienced repeated glaring disparities in how she was treated compared to other guests, particularly white guests, who received privileges without question or delay. This unequal treatment became especially evident when Vanessa tried to access hotel amenities like the gym and spa, exposing the underlying racial bias in the hotel's policies and staff behavior. One afternoon, Vanessa approached the hotel gym to book a workout session. The spa receptionist, a polite woman named Linda, asked Vanessa to wait, citing the need to verify her room access. Vanessa nodded calmly, understanding the request, though she sensed the deeper reasons behind it. Moments later, a white man in his 30s strolled in behind her wearing sweatpants, no visible ID, and with an easy confidence that contrasted sharply with Vanessa's cautious approach. Without hesitation, Linda smiled and waved him through with no questions asked. Vanessa stood silently, feeling the sharp sting of injustice. When Linda turned back to her, she said, "Sorry, ma'am, but we need to verify your status again. You understand, right?" Vanessa's voice was steady but firm. "What I understand," she said, "is that I've been asked to verify my status more times in 24 hours than your staff has verified actual bookings." Linda blinked, caught off guard by the quiet strength behind Vanessa's words. Vanessa simply smiled politely and said, "It's fine, I'll use another gym." This episode was not an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern of unequal treatment. White guests were routinely granted access and privileges without verification or suspicion, while Vanessa was subjected to repeated scrutiny and delay. This double standard was a clear manifestation of racial bias embedded within the hotel's service culture. Even routine requests were met with skepticism. when Vanessa called room service to ask for gluten-free options listed on the executive package menu. The staff member on the line sighed audibly and responded dismissively. "Ma'am, we only provide that to guests in the actual presidential suite. You're in a standard room, right?" Vanessa explained that her room had been downgraded due to a system error, but the response was met with light laughter and disbelief. It was another subtle yet painful reminder that despite her status and booking, she was being treated as less than she deserved. These repeated slights painted a stark picture. Vanessa was not simply a guest, but a symbol of how racial discrimination persists quietly, even in settings that claim luxury and inclusivity. Yet Vanessa remained composed throughout. She continued to document every incident, meticulously creating a record that could not be ignored or dismissed. Each refusal, every dismissive comment, and all unequal treatment were carefully logged, complete with dates, times, names, and evidence. Vanessa's calm determination was a powerful counter to the prejudice she faced. She understood that change would not come from anger alone, but through unyielding resolve and undeniable proof. In those moments of exclusion and scrutiny, Vanessa embodied dignity and strength. Her experience exposed how systemic bias can infiltrate even the most polished facades and how deeply it can impact those caught in its path. Vanessa Hughes's story is a compelling reminder that equality is not just about access, but about consistent respect and fair treatment. And it shows how courage and quiet perseverance can illuminate injustice and pave the way for change. On an otherwise ordinary morning at the Hamilton Grand Hotel, Vanessa Hughes faced an experience that crystallized the ongoing pattern of discrimination she had endured since her arrival. As she prepared to return to her room, she encountered an unexpected confrontation that would underscore the hotel's disregard for her dignity and privacy. Vanessa had realized she had left her backup phone charger in her room, and though it was a small oversight, she decided to return to retrieve it. She entered the lobby with the calm confidence that had marked her entire stay, nodding politely to the staff who still seemed unaware of her identity. As she stepped into the elevator and rode up to her floor, Vanessa's thoughts were focused on the detailed notes, photos, and recordings she had compiled documenting the mistreatment she had faced. Upon opening the door to her assigned room, Vanessa froze. Standing in the center, hunched over her desk with her laptop partially closed and personal documents spread around, was Marcus Reynolds, the hotel's general manager. Marcus was a man in his 50s with silver-streaked hair and a reputation for maintaining the hotel's polished image. His presence in her private space, unannounced and unauthorized, was a blatant violation of her privacy. Marcus looked up slowly, masking his embarrassment with a stiff, arrogant posture. "I didn't expect you back so soon," he said flatly, smoothing the front of his jacket as if trying to iron out the discomfort of his intrusion. Vanessa quietly closed the door behind her and fixed her gaze on him. "You entered my room without consent, without notice, and without cause," she stated firmly, her voice low but sharp. Marcus scoffed dismissively, waving a hand toward her laptop. "We had reports of irregular activity, guests trying to exploit policy loopholes. I came to see if your behavior was part of a pattern." Vanessa blinked, incredulous. "You broke into my space to investigate whether I was behaving," she said slowly, emphasizing the word. "That's an invasion of privacy." Stepping closer, Marcus's tone hardened. "Don't twist my words, Ms. Hughes. You came in here filming staff collecting photos, demanding perks that don't match your reservation. My staff said you were confrontational, difficult. What would you have me do? Ignore that this entire trip reeks of a performative stunt." Vanessa squared her shoulders and said firmly, "Performative. If exposing discrimination is performative, then I am proud to be part of it." Marcus's eyes widened briefly, too late to deny what he implied. He snapped, "I didn't say that. But let's not pretend this isn't some viral stunt. People like you come here, record everything, waiting for someone to slip so you can ruin a career over a tone or a look." Vanessa's calm voice cut through the tension like a knife. "What I want," she said, "is to be treated like a guest, not an experiment. I deserve respect. I don't need you in my room touching my property trying to rewrite the story because your staff couldn't hide their prejudice for 3 days." Marcus stepped back, his face flushing with anger. "You think I'm scared of your threats? You're just another entitled guest." Vanessa reached into her handbag with deliberate calm and retrieved a thick black business card with silver trim. She placed it slowly on the edge of the desk beside his hand. Marcus looked down, reading Vanessa Hughes, Senior Director, Ethics and Impact Review, Titan Capital Group. He read it twice, struggling to process. Vanessa continued, "Titan Capital Group is behind the $2.8 billion expansion deal your hotel has awaited for 9 months. His mouth opened, but no words came. Vanessa's voice was measured and deliberate. "I didn't come here to threaten you, Marcus. I came to observe. And now that I have, I'll be reporting back. The behavior your staff thought went unnoticed has been documented, verified, and submitted. You don't need to worry about a lawsuit, Vanessa added. What's coming is accountability. Marcus was visibly shaken, unable to find words, his half-raised hand falling back to his side. Vanessa turned toward the door and paused. You thought I came here to complain, she said over her shoulder. I came here to decide. With that, she left the room, leaving behind a charged silence that would echo far beyond the hotel walls. After the tense encounter in her hotel room, Vanessa Hughes knew that the moment to assert her authority had arrived. The Hamilton Grand Hotel was more than just a place she was staying, it was a business she had the power to influence profoundly. Vanessa was not just any guest. She was a senior executive representing Titan Capital Group, the investment firm poised to inject $2.8 billion into the hotel's ambitious expansion project. This deal was the lifeline the hotel had been eagerly awaiting for months. Now Vanessa was ready to make it clear that dignity and respect were non-negotiable prerequisites for their partnership. Calmly and deliberately, Vanessa retrieved a thick black business card with silver trim from her handbag. She slid it across the polished wood desk directly in front of Marcus Reynolds, the hotel's general manager who had previously barged into her room unannounced. His expression shifted from arrogance to disbelief as he read her title, Senior Director of Ethics and Impact Review for Titan Capital Group. Vanessa's voice was steady and purposeful as she spoke. Titan Capital Group is behind the $2.8 billion expansion deal you've been waiting on for 9 months. I didn't come here to threaten you, Marcus. I came to observe. She paused briefly, letting the weight of her words sink in. Now that I have, she continued, I will be reporting back. You can inform your staff that the behaviors they thought went unnoticed. Those moments of prejudice and disrespect have been carefully documented, verified, and submitted to our board, your parent corporation, and even the media. Marcus struggled to respond, his mouth opening and closing silently. Vanessa's presence was calm but commanding, each word measured with deliberate precision. You don't need to worry about lawsuits, she added. What's coming is accountability. It was a pivotal moment, a shift in power that Vanessa held firmly in her grasp. She turned toward the door but stopped just before leaving, her voice sharp and clear over her shoulder. You thought I came here to complain, she said, but I came here to decide. And with that, she walked out, leaving Marcus and the hotel's leadership to face the consequences of their actions. Downstairs in the lobby, Vanessa's footsteps echoed with a new purpose. She made her way back to the front desk where Garrett Lewis, the guest relations manager who had first doubted her, now waited with an uneasy expression. His earlier smugness had faded, replaced by a growing sense of apprehension. Vanessa stopped directly in front of Garrett and spoke with calm authority. I want to know why I was treated like a fraud, she said plainly. You remember the Centurion card, the one you joked about being maxed out? You remember finding the presidential suite unavailable, and the smirk you gave me as if I should be grateful just to be in this lobby. Garrett's face twitched nervously. He hesitated, unsure whether to respond or retreat. Vanessa's voice dropped to a razor's edge. Have you ever spoken to a white man in a $1,000 suit like that? Ever questioned his card or downgraded his room because of a system error? Ever offered him a room like you were doing him a favor? The surrounding guests began to take notice. A couple in line turned their heads. A man near the elevator quietly pulled out his phone and started recording. Without haste, Vanessa reached into her bag once more and pulled out the same black business card. She placed it gently on the reception counter, her presence commanding the room. Garrett looked down at the card, his complexion draining. Read it, Vanessa said firmly. I'm not here for excuses. Titan Capital has finalized its ethics review on the Hamilton Grand. As of 7:58 this morning, our findings have been submitted to the investment board, your parent company, and a global media syndicate. Garrett swallowed hard, struggling to maintain composure. Miss Hughes, he began weakly, I didn't mean any harm. That's the problem, Vanessa replied. You didn't mean anything. You just assumed. Assumed I was a threat. Assumed I didn't belong. Assumed I was disposable. She leaned in slightly, her voice cold but steady. You see a black woman with power and your first instinct is mockery. But now you're about to learn how expensive your assumptions are. The lobby was silent, the weight of Vanessa's words hanging thick in the air. Suddenly, the internal phone behind the desk rang. The receptionist answered nervously and told Garrett, the regional director is requesting you in the executive office immediately. Garrett remained frozen, caught between fear and disbelief. Vanessa took a single step back and said quietly, had you shown even 1 ounce of respect, I'd be the one announcing your international expansion right now. Instead, you looked me up and down and saw a threat. A guest nearby muttered under his breath, damn. Garrett tried to speak, but Vanessa cut him off sharply. You didn't check, you judged, and now you've lost. She turned and walked away, her every step a statement of finality. This was no mere complaint, it was a reckoning. The confrontation between Vanessa Hughes and the staff at the Hamilton Grand Hotel did not stay confined within the hotel's polished walls for long. Within hours, a video capturing Vanessa's composed and powerful response to the discrimination she faced went viral, sparking national conversations about racial bias in luxury hospitality. The 43-second clip titled "Black Executive Confronts Hotel Racism with Silent Power" quickly amassed millions of views. Social media users were captivated by Vanessa's quiet dignity and unwavering resolve as she stood firm in the face of blatant prejudice. Hashtags like #Vanessa Hughes, #respect, and dignity, and #hospitality justice began trending across platforms, igniting a wave of support and calls for accountability. News outlets from CNN to NPR picked up the story, broadcasting headlines that underscored the gravity of the situation. $2.8 billion investment deal pulled. After black executive exposes discrimination at elite hotel, CNN reported, while MSNBC delved into the systemic issues revealed by Vanessa's experience and the broader implications for the hospitality industry. Comedians and cultural commentators added their voices. Trevor Mitchell, a popular late-night host, opened his monologue by saying, "She didn't yell, she didn't tweet, she dropped a card and the whole damn building caught fire." His words captured the symbolic power of Vanessa's action, how a simple, quiet gesture could ignite profound change. Back at the Hamilton Grand's corporate headquarters, a glass tower just blocks away from the hotel itself, the impact was immediate and intense. Phones rang incessantly as executives scrambled to respond. Richard Barton, CEO of Hamilton Global Holdings, was inundated with calls from multiple fronts: the legal team from Titan Capital Group, the company's largest stakeholder in Dubai, and an international travel alliance which announced it was suspending all packages involving Hamilton properties effective immediately. Inside the executive boardroom, tensions erupted. Voices overlapped in heated debate and frustration boiled over. One executive slammed his fist on the table and demanded, "Why the hell didn't we know who she was?" The answer was painfully clear: because you didn't check, you judged. Emails poured in from former employees and guests alike, revealing a troubling pattern of similar discriminatory experiences at Hamilton hotels across the globe. Stories emerged from black travelers, corporate clients, influencers, and everyday guests, all describing subtle but persistent bias that mirrored Vanessa's ordeal. Meanwhile, back at the Hamilton Grand Hotel, Garrett Lewis, the once smug front desk manager, was quietly escorted away by human resources. His departure was without ceremony. No farewell emails, no second chances, just a silent acknowledgement of the consequences he faced. Vanessa herself did not seek the spotlight beyond that viral moment. She left the hotel quietly, exiting through a side door to avoid the media frenzy. No interviews, no public statements, just the kind of silence that carries weight and signifies change. Yet even as the hotel's walls bore witness to the fallout, the real impact was far greater. A corporate analyst watching the hotel's stock prices plummet whispered to a colleague, "She didn't bring this down. We built it on bias and she just lit the match." Vanessa Hughes's viral confrontation had become a catalyst, a moment that shattered complacency and demanded accountability on a scale that reached far beyond the lobby of one hotel. The repercussions of Vanessa Hughes's courageous stand against discrimination at the Hamilton Grand Hotel reverberated quickly through the business world and the hospitality industry. What began as a quiet, determined act of exposing injustice soon escalated into a corporate crisis that shook the foundations of the prestigious hotel chain. Within 72 hours of the video of Vanessa's confrontation going viral, the financial fallout was staggering. Over 40 major investment groups pulled their funding from the Hamilton Grand's multi-billion-dollar expansion project. What had been a once promising plan to grow the brand across continents suddenly vaporized into thin air. The withdrawal of investors sent shockwaves through the company's leadership. In the chaotic boardrooms of Hamilton Global Holdings, executives scrambled to assess the damage and formulate a response. The CEO, Richard Barton, faced mounting pressure as partners and stakeholders questioned how such a high-profile scandal had been allowed to fester unnoticed. As the investigation deepened, former employees came forward to share their own stories of discrimination and exclusion within the company. Black guests, corporate clients, influencers, and regular travelers all recounted eerily similar experiences of being marginalized, ignored, or treated unfairly during their stays. Among the consequences was the immediate dismissal of Garrett Lewis, the front desk manager, who had openly mocked Vanessa's Centurion card and perpetuated the hotel's culture of bias. Marcus Reynolds, the general manager who had intruded on Vanessa's privacy and accused her of playing a performative stunt, was placed on indefinite leave pending a full internal audit. The company's parent organization launched a comprehensive internal audit across all properties carrying the Hamilton name. The goal was to identify systemic problems and implement necessary reforms to prevent further damage to the brand and to rebuild public trust. Amid the crisis, a detailed 47-page report authored by Titan Capital Group was released publicly. This document was clinical and uncompromising, laying bare the institutional patterns of racial exclusion deeply embedded within the hotel chain's personnel culture and operational systems. It included named staff members, detailed incidents, timestamps, audio recordings, and photographs, all meticulously compiled from Vanessa's evidence and the accounts of others. The executive summary captured the essence of the findings succinctly. The Hamilton Grand brand demonstrates a recurring institutional pattern of racial exclusion and inequity woven into its corporate culture and day-to-day operations. The fallout from the report was swift and severe. Within days, dozens of hotel chains around the world voluntarily began conducting ethics audits of their own, seeking to avoid a similar public relations disaster. Several elite travel companies severed contracts with the Hamilton brand, and 2 prestigious hospitality schools announced they would no longer collaborate with the chain. Financial analysts described the event as a corporate implosion, while communities and activists called it a long overdue reckoning. The scandal exposed not only the failings of one hotel, but illuminated a broader issue within the luxury hospitality industry. Back at Titan Capital's headquarters in Washington, D.C., Vanessa Hughes sat quietly in her office overlooking Franklin Square. On her desk rested a single cup of black coffee and a framed black and white photo of her grandmother who once worked in a Mississippi hotel and was dismissed for taking too long to fold sheets while white guests waited. An assistant quietly entered to inform Vanessa that the board had just completed its meeting with a unanimous vote to cancel the expansion deal. The press embargo was set to lift at 5 p.m., signaling the beginning of a new chapter. Vanessa nodded without hesitation. "Good," she said simply. When asked about media requests for interviews, she remained resolute. "Tell them no," she instructed firmly. Though dubbed the Vanessa Hughes Standard by the press and hailed as a symbol of change, Vanessa herself insisted, "I'm not a movement. I'm a mirror. They exposed themselves. I only reflected it back." Her humility and focus underscored the truth that the fight for justice was not about personal glory, but about systemic change. Following Vanessa Hughes's brave stand, the ripple effects of her actions transformed the hospitality industry forever. Over 50 hotel chains worldwide voluntarily launched ethics audits to confront and root out systemic bias. A new standard known as the Hughes Benchmark was created to evaluate fairness and inclusion in luxury services globally. Business schools began teaching the collapse of the Hamilton Grand Hotel as a landmark case study in leadership and brand risk, inspiring future leaders to prioritize ethics and respect. For the first time in history, frontline hotel staff were given anonymous channels to report discrimination directly to corporate ethics boards, bypassing biased local management. Vanessa didn't seek fame or awards. She simply showed up every morning with quiet strength, reviewing contracts and reports, fueling change through persistence and integrity. Her courage sparked new policies that reshaped how guests of all backgrounds are treated, ensuring dignity and respect are no longer optional, but foundational. At a historically black university in Georgia, young women studying hospitality speak of Vanessa as a role model, not for loud protests, but for powerful, unshaken resolve. Across the globe, hotels adopted new policies, no assumptions, just respect. Life lesson. Sometimes true change doesn't come from loud protests or dramatic moments, but from standing firm in quiet dignity. Vanessa's story teaches us that integrity, patience, and perseverance can challenge even the deepest injustices. When we reflect the world's flaws with courage and calm strength, we inspire transformation far beyond ourselves. If Vanessa's story touched you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. What moments in your life have shown the power of quiet strength? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to join us every day for stories that inspire and uplift. Together we can learn, grow, and make the world a better place, one powerful story at a time.